Hi, my name is Josh Gottry. Welcome to today's weekly lesson. Today we're going to talk about timpani again. Specifically, we're going to talk about muting or dampening the drums. Inevitably, when you're playing timpani, you're going to find a situation where you no longer want the drum to ring after you struck it. The orchestra cuts off, it's a staccato note, something like that, and you need to stop the sound. Unlike snare drum or marimba, this is an instrument we're going to touch physically with our hands with regularity to control the duration or length of sound that the drum creates. So a couple things about muting, and then just some basic exercises you might want to work on to practice this technique. First of all, it's really important that we retain the fulcrum or our focus of our grip at all times. And so the thumb and first finger we want to keep in position at all times. We don't want to use either of those fingers for muting or dampening if at all possible. That still leaves us with 3 fingers available. If we spread those fingers nice and wide, we actually have a pretty good contact area available to mute the drum. So first thing, 3 wide fingers, keep the fulcrum in place. Second thing, we want to mute the drum in the exact same place that we strike the drum. That seems relatively intuitive, but let me explain why just in case. The place that we strike the drum is the place of the greatest vibration. If we want to stop that vibration to stop the sound, we're going to go to the source of the greatest vibration on the drum and try and stop that vibration. So we want to touch in the same spot we strike. So that does require moving the hand from one position, the playing position, to the muting position and back again. So it's really important we practice just that process of getting the stick back to that same playing spot after we mute, so we don't end up muting and then playing in a poor playing spot on the head after that muting takes place. So here's a stroke, keep my fulcrum in place, spread my fingers, touch, and mute the drum, and then back to the position that I was going to be playing in again. Do that again. And when we mute the drum, we want to make sure we just touch. We don't want to press because we can actually impact the pitch of the head if we press too much. If I play, especially if we don't spread those fingers wide enough, if I play and then just push, you can hear hopefully that pitch raise up as I'm muting it. We don't want to do that, so we want to just touch, keep those fingers nice and spread. And while I'm doing this, you may, I don't know how carefully the camera is picking up the extra sound, you may hear some extraneous noise from this drum over here. Keep in mind that sound is just disturbance of air, and that air is moving all over the place, and so it's bound to it, the frequency it's moving, also impact some of the other drums that we're playing. So often, if you want complete silence for the drums, after you play, you're going to muffle all the drums you have available. In this case, we just have 2, to make sure that that sympathetic vibration is not impacting the other drum, and so we mute this one, but we still have another drum or 2 ringing. If you're only using one drum for a period of time and want to make sure the other doesn't ring, you can take a cloth and just drape it on the drum or some sort of mute to make sure that that drum isn't ringing while you're playing. Very rarely will you have the opportunity actually to do that, but there are a few orchestral works out there where having mute available for an extended passage does come into handy. And there are some solo pieces that call for it for special effects. So there's the first thing is, okay, we've got the fulcrum in place, the 3 wide fingers. Second step, making sure we mute in the same place that we play. Then we want to start listening and considering how long do we want that drum to ring. Ultimately, particularly in ensemble playing, the ensemble will help you determine the length of the note. We could hope that every composer notates exactly the duration that they're expecting out of the timpani, but that's not always the case. So it's really important to realize that if you play a figure on this drum with the trumpets, well, this drum should cut off when the trumpets stop playing. Maybe they have a half note, so you want to mark in your music that you're going to cut off on beat 3 after that half note strikes on beat 1. Maybe they have a quarter note, so you want to mark that you cut off on beat 2. Your part may have a half note, a quarter note, an eighth note, who knows? But you want to use the ensemble as a guide for the duration of those pitches. If you're playing a solo work, it's ultimately a matter of clarity. How long do I want this note to ring as if I were sustaining it, and then mute it after very purposefully. Now, a couple exercises to help work on muting. We're often doing more than one thing at a time, playing and muting at the same time. So this is just a very simple exercise, playing alternating quarter notes and eighth notes between the two hands and getting used to muting between strokes and then muting simultaneously with strokes. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just the eighth notes. Eighth note, eighth rest, eighth note, eighth rest on these two drums, and I'm practicing both hands doing that same technique I was doing just on this drum. So I've got eighth note, eighth rest, eighth note, eighth rest, eighth note, eighth rest, eighth note, eighth rest. Okay, then I can go to quarter notes where I'm actually muting one drum at the same time I'm playing the next drum. This allows for us, even when we don't have a rest in the music, to create clarity of part. If I just play quarter notes back and forth between these two drums, you hear one drum ringing while the other one is being played. If I want a greater sense of clarity, I'm going to go ahead and play one drum and mute that drum as I play the next drum. Then we can do those two exercises back and forth. Eighth notes, eighth rest, and then quarter notes. You get the idea. It's a great way to practice muting the drums and get used to the coordination skills involved with both playing and stopping the sound for the timpani. One last thing before I finish up today. I showed you this cloth earlier just as a potential mute on the drum. Since we do touch the drums quite a bit when we're muting, we're inevitably going to leave whatever oils or moisture that might be on our hands on those heads, and that could potentially be picked up by our mallets, or can reduce the resonance of the drum. So after playing timpani, before playing timpani, it's a great idea to wash your hands. After playing timpani, it's a great idea just to wipe down the playing surface or the surface that you touched on the drum to make sure that you clean up any residue that you left, so that you, when you return to playing it, don't get it on your mallets, or the next person that's going to play doesn't get on their mallets, and the heads stay nice and clean and resonant. We get the best possible sound out of the drum. That's it for this week. See you later.